You can do it in the car. Ooh.
You could even do it on your lunch break. Spiffing. You can even do it in the bed. Oh yeah, we're painting some bases today as well. Stay tuned. So welcome back. In this episode, it's going to be relatively simple. What we're going to do is on one or two bases, I'm going to put Mechanical Standard Grey for the ones with the details, and then we're going to be putting our new texture paint, Astrogranite, and I'm going to show you the do's and don'ts with this texture paint. Starting with the biggest don'ts, which is don't use this brush, don't use this brush, don't use this brush, or this brush, or any of the brushes, especially the one that they tell you to use, the medium base. Don't use any. If you want your brushes to last, then you don't want to dip them in a thick goopy mass full of sand. It's going to bend the bristles, it's going to get stuck in the ferrule, which is the bit that holds the bristles together, and then you end up with fishtail looking brushes. So yeah, don't use your brushes unless you've got a really beat up one that you don't give a shit about. Maybe your starter one doesn't look anywhere near that good and it's all frayed and stuff. That's fine, it won't be that good, you only get a little bit out at a time. But what you really want is something like a cocktail stick or a lollipop stick, or if you have like a modelling scalpel like this, you scoop it out, pop it on, and then spread it around. The only time you really need to use a brush is, say you get some of it on the edge, you can either use a wet bit of tissue, or you could just go around the edge with your brush and just brush away the edge like that, and then you can just rinse it off. So without further ado, let's get to the actual painting. Alright, so what you want to do with the Mechanical Standard Grey is with the fresh water, paper, blah 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 blah, you already know that. Get your palette, thin down the paint slightly. If you get any of these nurglings, you want to just paint that base because it's already textured. So just paint it, just be careful around the toes. So now I'm sure they'll do some shading and dry brushing in the future for the bases, but for now it's just applying that texture paint, which, to be honest, you've got quite a lot of models to do anyway. You've got what, 30 models at the base, so you know, and it takes a little while to dry. So yeah, right, so that chap's got his and then this is the most notable one. The aggressors, you would have already painted up the details. So what you got to do with this chap is just go around the growths, nice and easy, like that. Just take your time with it, and paint the bits underneath as well, like so. Okay, so some prep work that may be needed with the blight hauler. You haven't glued it down, you should be able to pop it off the base, and then you can do the entire base, just making sure you don't cover the holes. If you do cover the holes, don't worry, you just turn it over, you can see where they are, you can poke like a cocktail stick through to clear it, or your brush, and try not to use your brush, but anyway. So you got that. Characters with big flowy capes. You have to be really careful with these. If you've glued them down real hard, you're gonna sort of have something that's sharp and thin to get in underneath the cape. Alternatively, if you're like me and you've just lightly glued it, you can just pop it off. Make sure that you go around where the glue marks are for the footprints and then do the whole thing. There is a third alternative, and that is you texture the entire base, you wait for it to dry, and then you get some super glue and you glue them on top, and that way you don't have to worry about mucking up the paint job all around the ankles and stuff. So because I haven't glued any of them hard, like properly down on the base, that's the option I'm going to go for, and then I'm going to super glue them on top. So what you want to do, you get this Astrogranite texture paint and you give it a real good shake, because you want to make sure that you get that mixture nice and mixed up. And then when you open it, ta-da, it's going to look like an awful mess. So what you do, because you don't have to worry about spilling it because it's so thick. Pull it right back, keep it open, because that's what this is all about. It helps hold the lid open. Use your tool, whatever you're going to use. As I said, I'm going to use this scalpel, and all I've got to do is just scoop it on like that. I might need a bit more than that, and then I'll just spread it out. And you can spread it as thinly or as thickly as you like to get the texture that you want. And you could do like sort of drifts, so you could bunch bits up like that. You could do like grooves, or you could just spread it nice and thin like butter on toast. And what you do is just, as you go to the edge, scrape it along like that, and that way it doesn't go over the edge. Alternatively, if you got something like this, again, look, I haven't glued them in, I could just pop them out, but I'm not going to. Yeah, I will. I'll pop them out. So if you've got something with detail on it already, again, scoop it on like so, and then you just spread it around, but then you just gently push some of it towards the base of that bit there. So you want to try and fill in any gap underneath and up to. Now don't worry if it goes up it slightly like it has done there, because it just adds more depth to the base terrain, so it makes it look like it's more embedded into the base. So, but you don't want it all over the place, because then it's just going to look real scruffy and undo the great paintwork that you've already done. This one is simple enough because you're just going around the edge, but if you wanted, you could put a little bit on top as well, just for additional texture. So this chap, you see he's got a lot of details around his ankles. Now again, I could just pull him out the base because I haven't glued him in, but I'll just show you what I'll do here. So that's a bit much there. You'd be surprised how well this spreads. So again, you just spread it around like you're buttering toast. Yeah, we'll make, I guess it's more like slightly crunchy peanut butter. Okay, so you see there's a bit of a lift on the back on one of the feet, so you just try and get a little lump like that, and then you just try and push it underneath and then slide to the side like so, like that. Oof. Sorted. Less is more though with the texture. You want to make sure that you don't put too much on there. You can always scrape it off and put it on another base, but I find it's easier to control if you put less than what you think you'll need to begin with, and then you can add to it. And then again here, to get it in there, you want to just use the point and just push it in bit by bit, like so. And then you can go up to the feet as well. There we go. Now what I would do is, once it's dried, if you want to take it that a little bit further, you do a heavy wash of Nuln Oil, and then you would dry brush with the next grey ups. That's essentially it. So it might take a little while to do all of the bases because it is a little intricate. But yeah, just take your time with it. It's no rush, and I'll show you what it all looks like in a minute. So okay, so here are some examples of the bases that I did. So as you can see, I didn't do just a flat plain base. I did some grooves and some mounds just to keep it interesting, just to make it look like there's a bit more texture to the terrain, a bit more dimension. Here I've got an example of one of each of the bases, and what I found was it was easier to take the models off the bases where I could. So the ones with the bar that this standing on, took them out, I textured the base, I pressed them back in, and then I pushed some of that texture across the bar that was between the feet, and I found that this was the neatest and most effective way of doing it. Here's the Ultramarines as well, and with the Incept I remember I did the rubble from the cut up bits of sprue. Well, I painted that with the texture paint as well, so it looks more as part of the base, and it sort of pulls it all together. And then of course there's the example there, and don't worry if you do get a little bit on the edge of the base as well, because when it's dry you can just scratch it off. It's really easy, and that's what I ended up doing with some of it. With the Blight Hauler I just wanted to focus more on the tracks. As you can see on the base I made grooves to make it look like the tracks had left a mark, but I also put clumps of the texture paint into the tracks to make it look like some of it got caught up in the tracks, and it just gives that little extra texture to the model itself. Alright guys and girls, so here is the community focus, and this time it was all about bases and how to be creative with your bases. So it wasn't necessarily what was in the issue, but what people have been doing in the community to adorn the bases of the miniatures. So let's have a look. So starting with Lee Coop, he has done something a little bit similar to what I did, but a lot more extravagant. He's got some cork which you can get from modelling shop, and he's cut little blocks of it out and he's glued it all together, and then he's popped that chap on top, so he's leaping from a rock while he's blasting away the enemies of humanity, and that looks absolutely epic. I can't wait to see that all painted up. And we've got Luke Wood, and he said it was a little work in progress, but you can see stage by stage what he's doing. So on the far left he's got some material that he's put down on the base, so he knows roughly what he wants to do with it. Then in the middle it shows that he's based it, he's got his base colours on there, and then on the far right any details that he wants to pick out he has, and you can see he's even painted a little bit of wood there as well, and it really adds a lot of character to the bases, so it gives it that little extra dimension. So that was a really good share, so thank you for that. Rob Tuan, he's a consummate joker in the community, so watch out for him. We've got Gavin Mark Schofield, and he's been painting his Space Hulk Blood Angel Terminators, and what he's done here is he's chopped a bit of a Gene Stealer head and he's put it on the base, painted a bit of blood around it, and it looks absolutely fantastic. Very gruesome, and it really goes with the theme. So thank you for that share. Colin Havard, he wanted to do a blending technique with his bases, and as you see, it looks really cool, but he decided to do something different because I think this just required a bit too much work to do. But in theory, it would have looked absolutely epic with a whole army with that base. But thank you for sharing. Gavin Mark Schofield again. He's got an Inquisitor on the left with a sculpted base, which looks really cool and really fits with the character. And then on the right, I don't know if that is a sculpted base or if he's put some material on it, but it does look really good with that librarian. And again, it adds another bit of dimension because it's lifted him up slightly and it's put him at a slight angle. So yeah, it does subtle things to the miniature, but it really works well. Philip Middleton, he's done an epic one here. So he's got what looks like the face of a statuette, and again leaping from it. It just looks really good, and it looks like he's battling in a battlefield where they had a bit of culture going on. They had, like, statues or whatever. It gives a little narrative to the model itself and tells you a bit about where they are fighting. So yeah, no, that's really cool, and he's got the theme and nicely done as well. So he's got the sand and the tuft of grass to match the scheme of the statue as well. So that's really good. Thank you very much for sharing that. Tom Tattersall, got it. He's got a Tau battle suit. I'm not sure which one it is, but the base looks really cool. He's kept it simple. He hasn't overcrowded it. He's done a couple of bigger lumps of stone that he's painted up nicely, and some tufts of grass, but less can always be more, and it works really well with this miniature. And yeah, no, it's a good little paint job as well. So thank you for sharing that. Colin Havard shared another one, but this is a really cool one. So he's cut out the base, the middle part of it, and then he's got a splatter guard. So like the wire mesh you put on top of a pot or a pan while you're cooking to stop it spitting everywhere. So he's cut a little bit of that out, and he's added rust effects and whatever, and it looks really good. Really fitting with the model, with that rust and decay that the Death Guard are known for. And and it also means that you can see the terrain that you are playing on as well through the mesh. So it's a really good idea, and I might steal it one day. Carl Simonson, I hope I said that right. He's painted up this really cool possessed Chaos Warrior, and the paint scheme is amazing, and I could talk more about that as well, but I know I said it bases, so I'll zoom in on that base, and as you can see, he's done like a hot, almost lava effect with that. Like it's been bombarded so much that it's just red hot, and the earth itself is molten. So to achieve this, the way I would do it is I'd go for the middle color. So you'd find the range of colors you want to go. So the brightest point will be white, but that'll be your spot color. Then you'll do real bright orange, then you'll go down to medium orange, and then you'll go down to dark orange, and then you go black. And I'd go for that medium orangey yellow color. I'll paint that all around in the middle, and then in between the gaps, and then I would start blending towards the center with the brighter colors, and then do a little spot of white, and then towards the edges I'll start blending with the darker colors. And then, as you can see here with the rocks, he's painted them black and highlighted them with grey, because as rock cools it darkens. So yeah, no, it's a really effective scheme, and it works beautifully with that model. So thank you for sharing that. Then Richard Lynch, he shared his Instagram link, so we'll have a look over there for his bases. So as you can see, I'm gonna have to turn it. Yeah, no, look at that. So he's got the step-by-step, he's got the colors as well, and the texture paint, or the technical paint they used. And yeah, no, so you see he stipples the details on, and he starts doing lines, and then he builds it up layer by layer, and it's really effective. And if you haven't been on his Instagram, you should go on his Instagram and check it out, because he's doing a mixture of Dark Angel's successor chapters, and the unifying element is the bases. So it looks really cool. Yeah, here you go. Look, as you can see, all variations of color schemes, but all with the same bases, and it really works well to tie them all together. So thank you very much for that share, and thank you to the rest of you for sharing your works of art. And as always, I'll be doing more videos in the future, so always look out for the posts on Twitter or on Facebook. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel, and you go to the social media links in the description below and have a look there. And that's it. So yeah, thank you again for those sharing their bits, pieces with us and sharing that inspiration, and thank you for watching, and I hope this video has been helpful. So I'll see you in the next one. Peace.